I used to get laughed at when I would speak aloud in front of my class, in front of a classroom, right, when I was a kid. So I was just terrified of the humiliation from my peers and being picked on and made fun of. So it just all tied back to those kind of wounds that I didn't heal yet. And I called him a couple years after this coach, when I was giving a speech. And I was like, okay, I've been speaking publicly for, 10 years at this point, which it was a big fear early on. Then I got better at speaking, but I'd still get nervous before I would get on stage. And I remember calling him before I got on stage. And I'm like speaking in front of like 10,000 people one day. And I'm getting paid a lot of money and people are excited to see me speak. But I was like, why am I still nervous? And so I called him right before the speech. I go, I don't understand this. I've been practicing this for 10 years. I felt like I overcame the fear. I learned how to speak. I did it every week for a year. I went to a public speaking class. I'm getting paid to speak now. Like, why am I still nervous? And he said, it's simple. You still care about, you're still thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about others. You're thinking about how you look and trying to look good as opposed to being of service. And if you can get on stage and know you are not going to be perfect, know that you're going to forget a joke that you wanted to say, know that you stumbled on a word or something, know that you're not going to be perfect with your pauses or whatever it might be, know that you might get distracted if someone's on their phone and be frustrated. If you accept yourself knowing you're not going to be perfect and you're never to give a perfect speech, and you just think about how can I serve everyone there or one person, you will be less nervous. And I started practicing that, and that's like a mantra that I have now. Before I get on a stage, like, it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about everyone here. And how can I serve one person who needs this message? And if I can connect with one person on what they really need right now and just speak into their heart and their soul, as opposed to try to look funny, interesting, smart, or talented, then I'll come across as a lot more genuine, and I'll probably look more smart, talented, and all these other things, and funny, by serving. And so I just flipped the energy of, and I think for a long time I was like, I hope I do a good job and I hope people like it. And now I'm just like, I hope I can give a message that helps people. And it makes me feel a lot more at peace. So that was a way of letting go of the fear of judgment from public speaking, from podcasting, business. But in the intimacy, it was tricky because I was so afraid of having the person that I care about and love not like me or judge me. And so I would abandon myself over and over again in relationships and try to make them happy. And instead, actually do what I authentically thought I was supposed to do. So the more I would abandon myself, the more and more I wouldn't accept myself, because I was becoming someone I didn't want to be to please one human being. So that's why for me, it just became clear I needed to heal those wounds that caused me to want to people please one person at a time and focus on how can I rather try to please one person and instead heal and accept and please myself and be aligned with the other person. And that's been a huge shift for me. And so it's been a beautiful and painful journey to get there.
Do you know where that came from?
I'm sure it just came from a number of instances of never feeling enough, and always feeling scared as a kid. So, and that's why at the root of all three of these fears is I am not enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not talented enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not.
It's the narrative.
Yeah, exactly. It's whatever's underneath it. And so that was my story. And so I had to go back and heal those wounds and rewrite the stories that told me I wasn't enough and actually create different meaning. I love Viktor Frankl's
I do too. Yeah.
Man's Search for Meaning, because I just found meaning in all of my deficiencies and insecurities from the past. I found why they needed to happen, as opposed to why is it happening to me in a negative way, but why they needed to happen in order for me to be able to serve the way I'm doing now. And if all these things didn't happen, I would not care about people. I would not care to serve. I would not care to make, do an interview show for 10 years to put the light on others. I would have been doing things differently. I would have just focused on how do I make as much money as possible or whatever, or look at me. And so.
Has that always been a focus? I mean, greatness is not by accident. Mm-hmm. And it's so fascinating to see someone who has spent 10 years, you haven't changed the trajectory of what you've provided for the world. And that's unusual.
Yeah.
And it's also really unusual that it isn't about you. It's been very much in service of others.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, first of all, where does that come from?
It probably comes from a number of things. One, probably feeling like I wasn't smart enough to have like my own show as like, okay, what am I actually going to say? You know, 10 years ago, I knew I had talent in terms of like online marketing and starting a business from scratch, because I did that for 5 years and got to a certain level. But I wasn't on like Mark Cuban's level or something. So in a lot of ways, there's always different levels. But in my little niche, like I'd become known in a little niche and had accomplished some results. But it just didn't feel authentic to me to host a show 10 years ago that was my name as me as the expert. I really said to myself, okay, I was 29 when I launched it. I was about to turn 30. And I was like, I have so much to learn. I have so much to learn. And I actually know nothing. I thought, my ego thought I knew everything, but I actually don't know anything. And so that's why the journey started. And it started as a 1-year experiment. I was like, let me try this for a year. No one even knows what a podcast is.
It's wild.
I don't even know if anyone's going to listen, because when you say podcast, people never heard the word back then in 2012 when I was thinking about it. And I was like, let me just try it for a year. And I'm not trying to make money. I just want to do it because I'm interested in people and I want to learn. And I want to share the wisdom when I'm learning with others. So that's how it began. And then it just grew from there.
You know, sitting and interviewing all these people, which you were talking about, that they are experts in their field. Mm-hmm. Was there ever a time, you know, and this book is really all about the mindset. Mm-hmm. And when I picked it up, it was just serendipitous that the first chapter is our mutual friend, Jason Redman, who I messaged you and I said, well, you know, Jason is Team 10 One Troop, which is the same as my husband, which you have to understand that's very rare because there's so many. You have a lot of, actually, I shouldn't even say a lot, a handful of experts in this book, from Gabby Bernstein to Jason Redman, Rich Davini. Sitting on the other side, was there a moment in any of those conversations? I'm sure there was many, but do you feel that there was any moment that really kind of changed the trajectory of the way in which you were thinking? Just an aha moment where you couldn't unsee or unlearn what was just presented?
From the last 10 years?
Any 10 years, the book.
There was a moment almost 2 years ago, because for 5 years I've wanted to write this book. I didn't have the fear of writing a book. I'd already written 2 of them. But I knew something was off inside of me that I could not put this book out until I figured out what that was. So for 5 years I was researching. 5 years I was taking notes. 5 years I was studying it. I was asking questions for the book. I was interviewing everyone because I wanted to ask people about self-doubt, people at the top of their game, how they overcame self-doubt.